Let's go back to dairy.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 2/3 to 75% of the population of the entire world is lactose intolerant,
Mhm.
meaning that about the age of 5, 6, 7 years of age, they lose the ability to break down lactose. They become they don't have lactase persistence. Lactase being the enzyme that breaks down lactose. And there have been 4 or 5 instances in evolutionary anthropology where humans independently on different continents have developed lactase persistence, and now they're able to actually ingest dairy as an adult and not have all the problems from that. What's been your experience with the hunter gatherers you visited and the use of dairy for adults, and how do they prepare that dairy? How is it processed?
Great question.
貴様白ひげ傘下の海賊ユキシドーマお初にお目にかかるモモンガ中将首
都崩壊ビッグマムとジンベエ
So some cultures, they go to almost rely on it about 90% of their calories in their diet, and they're in perfect health, right? And many of these cultures are in regions where they don't technically have the gene to break down lactose at all, but they ferment it. I don't go anywhere where someone just drinks the milk without fermentation. So I think that's a big piece that's really been missing. We don't ferment milk properly now, and we also use really not great breeds of cows and animals, so it can cause a lot of people a problem to where they think they can't consume dairy. But what I see it's really more the agrarian and the herding cultures, mostly the herding. They do so much dairy, enormous amounts, and really creative things that make it so delicious. But they do fermentation. They make it into an alcohol. They make it into cheese cookies. They taste like cookies. They're amazing. And these things that taste like donuts, it's 100% cheese. Wow, if I could get a cook to make me those, amazing. They often will have a whole yurt or tent that is designed just for making dairy. So they actually build a whole structure, each family, for the fermentation of the dairy. And that's really quite common across these cultures. Now, the hunter-gatherers, they don't do milk by definition because they're not herding animals. But what I've noticed, and this is just an observation, so take it with a grain of salt, but what I've noticed is that most of the hunter-gatherer communities that I go to, if I go to communities that are fully traditional, they're amazing health. If I go to communities that have modernized at all, their health dwindles much faster within 1 to 2 generations, as opposed to, say, 3 to 7. So the dairy seems to be quite protective of the modern foods. And I think part of that is from the extreme levels of ADK, which we really aren't getting in our diet today, right? Everyone's going and taking supplements, and this is really a superfood if it's done right. And so I really think it's under that, and also the probiotics that you're getting from it as well. This bacteria phobia that we've had has caused quite a bit of problems.
I totally agree. And I have a lot of friends who are huge proponents of raw milk. And I think that if raw milk is properly sourced and properly handled, I think it's fine. I think it's the least bad of all the dairies for an adult to drink. But when you use technology like microbes to ferment the dairy, I think that it removes the majority of the problems with an adult ingesting dairy. And so in every herding tribe you've seen, you haven't really seen the adults just drinking milk by the glass. They tend to process it with microbes first to ferment it, to break down.
Yeah, it's almost always fermented. Yeah, and so like when I was in Mongolia, they do a lot of horse milk, and they ferment that into a mild alcohol, kind of like our kombucha. And with that one, you can really, it's really quite fermented. When you taste it, it's sour. So most people like sour. We kind of aren't a sour culture in America, but most cultures are. And so they go towards that. Really, the only exception of when I've seen someone drink fresh milk is when it's, they're doing something else with the cow. Like they're collecting some blood to drink, or, they're collecting the milk to bring and then ferment in the tent or in the house. And so they're just like having a cup on the go, but it's not common. It's it's really more of like a maybe us picking up a treat once every 2 weeks. Like it's just not common. So I do know many people have healed on the all milk diet and on the high milk diet. And I say whatever works, go for it. That's great. Yeah, and there may be a lot of ancestral basis for that because most of these cultures have a way to use the food if something does happen to the person's health. And so some of them will go very high in organs, some of them will go just to soups, some of them will do fasting, some will do milk. So a lot of these higher dairy cultures throughout Asia will really start using a lot of milk.